Good evening, everyone. I am hereby calling to order this November 9th meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster. Just a couple of things real quickly. The meeting is live streamed, so you are being recorded. Please just be aware of that. Take this moment to silence your cell phones and I guess, open any wrapped candy that you might have. I know we have a couple of folks here for scheduled public comment, and there's of course another public comment period at the end for items not at the agenda. So I'll say this now so I don't have to say it again. Please remember that all comments should begin with your name and the block of your residence. So for example, I would say Ismail Smith Waddell, 500 block of South Duke Street, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. With that, if you are willing, please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Mr. Harris, if you would please call the roll of members.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz. Mr. Garcia Molina. Mr. Soto. And President Smith Waddell.
Here. Yep. Councilors Diaz and Garcia Molina are excused this evening. We'll go to approval of the minutes for October 26, 2021.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Council comments on the minutes. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Soto.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. We'll go to proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition.
We have none tonight, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. We will go to our first public comment period, reserved for citizens who have contacted the clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address City Council.
First tonight is Marshall Miller.
Hi, my name is Marshall Miller. I live on the 400th block of Grant Street, and I actually already communicated with Councilmember Smith Waddell about this issue, but my friend Whitney Davis lives in the southeast, and several of her neighbors have been complaining to her about very expensive parking tickets that are exorbitant and too expensive for her and her neighbors to pay. And I know this is an issue that you all are looking into, and I appreciate your attention to that, but I'll be working with Whitney to aggregate some of those concerns and try to bring that to you. But in the southeast, there seems to be a lack of parking, and then the local residents who live there and own homes are being punished with parking tickets that are making it difficult for them to pay things like mortgages and rent and food bills. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and voice that concern on behalf of those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anybody else, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President. Next is Vince Felizi.
Good evening. My name is Vince Felizi. I live in Cedar Acres Drive. I'd like to congratulate all who won in last week's election. I have a lukewarm reaction to it all, as I'm not feeling bad about who won, but I'm also not exactly full of things that will change for the better. I like to try and look at things objectively because society has become too divisive. That's the reason I'm not a huge fan of political parties, as they divide us. I like to look at candidates from the perspective of, are they going to represent us in a fair and equally beneficial way? If they have been in office, are they inspiring us to come together? From that perspective, I feel elected officials are not doing a good job. The election kind of proves that out. City of Lancaster has 59,400, give or take, residents. Tuesday's election, Mayor Sriracha received 4,265 votes. That's 7.1%. Council President Smith Waddell received 4,134 votes. That's 7%. And the top three council members received 7, 6.9, and 6.2% respectively. Those numbers do not suggest inspiration among the electorate. I feel it would benefit this administration if you use this post-election time to look in the mirror. Ask yourselves, how can we do better? Are we being responsive to the citizens of Lancaster? How can we inspire people to connect? Are you as connected to the little guy as well as the big guy? I wish you luck the next 4 years, because if you do well, Lancaster does well. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take a moment to recognize that Deborah Polite and Nelson Polite Jr. are here, and I will ask them to address us with some comments in the second public comment period. So just wanted to, say hi, and we'll hear from you a little later. We'll then go to reports.
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. President, there's a third for public comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I ran right over that. My bad. Mr. Harris, please.
Stanley Mogahan.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Stan Maughan, and I have a property on the 200 block of East Orange Street. It's a rental property there. And I recently received a letter proposing changes to the rental property ordinance, and I wanted to address the proposed requirement that all rental properties built prior to 1978 maintain lead-safe certification. And I really do appreciate the city's desire to provide safe and affordable housing to everyone who lives in the city. And I also certainly understand the concern for lead-safe housing, especially for units that have small children. My concern is about the proposal that requires this lead-safe certification for every property in the city, regardless of who lives there. For properties that don't have any small children, I think this is unnecessary, and it will inevitably result in higher rental costs for people who live in the city, which is contrary to, I'm sure, everyone's goal. First, I would say it's unnecessary for properties that don't have children, because most lead exposure to children comes obviously when children pick up paint chips and so forth and put them in their mouths, and that's just what small children do. I understand that. But with adults and with older children, that's not as much of a concern. And I think that's really obviously part of the reason why the current rules are focused on properties where small children are living. So for a property that does not have small children there, I don't think this requirement is necessary. But what it would do is would certainly end up increasing rental costs. Just to give you an example, my son owned a rental property in Columbia here in the county. And to meet the lead safe requirements there, he had to replace the windows in his house. And he had a two unit house in the city there. And it was so discouraging and so expensive for him that he couldn't end up staying there. He ended up selling the property at a higher price, and someone else bought it, and the rents went up. And of course, and it was an example of how the rents directly went up because of the lead safe requirement, even though there was no small children there. Now, the property I have in the city is in great shape. It's very desirable. It's affordable. I had one unit that came empty over the summer, and believe it or not, I ended up having 24 applications for people that wanted to live in that apartment. It's a great apartment, and it was a great price. But my problem is I have a lot of windows. Hard to believe. I counted them up. I have 54 windows in my building. There's 4 units there. They're all older, almost all of them older than 1978. I did replace a couple of them a couple of years ago that needed it. It cost about $2,000. So you can do the math on that. To replace all the windows in my building, it would probably cost over $50,000. And I'm thinking that would probably be necessary to meet the proposed lead-safe requirements. So even though I don't have any small children in the building, this proposal would require up to possibly $50,000 of renovations. And in the case of the tenants I have there currently, it just wouldn't even be really necessary.
Sir,
And to add a,
need you to wrap it up. We have a 3-minute
okay,
limit.
I have
Thank you.
just 30 seconds more. To add that cost to me and many other landlords, it would force rents to rise. So my argument is that to require that certification for every rental in the city, no matter who lives there, it's unnecessary and expensive and would force rents higher. And so I would encourage you to amend that proposal to exclude properties where no children are living. So thank you.
Thank you. My apologies, y'all. I'm sorry, did you?
No.
Okay. We move then to reports requested by council.
We have none tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. That brings us to reports of committees of council held on November 1st, 2021. It is my understanding that there was no public safety committee meeting. So we will skip that report and go directly to the report of the Public Works Committee. Councilor Soto.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee did meet November 1st at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. There was one item on that agenda that impacted Public Works, and that is Administration Bill Number 23, 2021, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Lancaster Township regarding the Little Conestoga Creek. And I'll have more as it comes up on the agenda, Council President. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Soto. Economic Development, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We did not meet during the last committee session, so no report.
Thank you. Finance, Councilor Beke.
Thank you. The Finance Committee did not meet during the last committee session.
Thank you. Community Planning, Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning did not meet during the last session.
Okay, thank you. Personnel Committee, Councilor Bake, I believe you'll be taking that this evening?
Yes, I'll take that for Councilor Diaz this evening. The Personnel Committee met on November 1st and reviewed the reappointments of Alex Folk to the Historical Commission and Joseph Donaldson to the Downtown Investment District Authority. Those votes on those reappointments will occur next in our legislative agenda. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. That concludes reports of committees of council. Taking us into our legislative agenda. Item A, nominations for appointment.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I hereby make a motion to reappoint Alex Folk to the Historical Commission for a term from January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2024, and to reappoint Joseph Donaldson to the Downtown Investment District Authority for a term from December 31st, 2021 to December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Council comments on the appointments. From the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Mr. Soto?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. I believe that concludes nomination for appointment.
That does, Council President.
Thank you. That moves us into ordinances for first reading, beginning with Administration Bill Number 23, 2021. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the proper officials of the City of Lancaster to enter into a memorandum of understanding for the purpose of providing for intergovernmental cooperation with respect to the payment of costs, contribution of services, and pursuing funding necessary for the preliminary design and engineering of the Little Conestoga Creek Blue-Green Card Project, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law. The title, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
It's a first reading.
It is a first. Thought we were past it. Counselor Soto.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, this intermunicipal cooperation to improve water quality and recreational features of the creek, the Little Conestoga Creek. The city limited investment to the project will also yield significant benefits to the city to satisfy EPA regulatory requirements. The project coordinator for the Stallman Foundation and project engineer presented information on the planned steam restoration project. The 4 municipalities are involved in the restoration of the 1.3-mile section of the stream and construction of an adjacent 2.9 walking trail. The population reduction credits will be available to each of the municipal governments with their participation. Let's see. That's all I have, Council President. If Mr. Campbell wants to add anything, he's free to come up to add anything. If not, that's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I just wanted to let you know that we actually do have Jim Schultz and Corey Ratman here to be able to speak and answer any questions as you might like about this project. One of the key advantages to the city is that for a very, very modest investment, we are making sure that there's clean water efforts being made along a very, very long stretch of the Little Conestoga River, and the city gains 25% of the initial credits, stormwater credits for doing that. Our piece is a very, very small piece, and yet we have a significant benefit that would be significantly more costly if we were to do it on our own. I think it also goes to the type of intermunicipal cooperation that is going to be necessary for us all to be successful, not only in the consent decree, but in other stormwater efforts. And it will be developing a system, a recreation system that links to our alternative modal transportation, the bike lanes, and to a variety of networks of recreation and active recreation.
Director Campbell, could you briefly elaborate on the benefit of stormwater credits?
So we as the city of Lancaster and the managers of the stormwater that goes into the Conestoga, not to mention, although I will of course mention it, the extent to which we need to comply with the consent decree, which may be a very expensive operation on our part, need to be able to gain credit or the value, as far as the Department of Environmental Protection is concerned, of making special or certain moves in terms of stormwater management that will contribute in a positive manner to our long-term goal. It's going to be a very, very expensive proposition over the next 20 years, and being able to acquire these credits for a very, very modest initial investment, which allows that project to go forward and create a lot more benefits for the other municipalities, as well as potential additional benefits for us, is a great one. But it's a means of valuing the efforts that are undertaken to safeguard stormwater.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Campbell. Councilors, did we have any further questions for really anybody that's available to us at this moment? We will now, yep. Go ahead. Question from the public.
Jessica Lopez, 437 East Marion Street. Now, first, let me make sure I'm correct. Is this the bike trail on Broad and Conestoga? No, that's not this. Okay, so then I'll hold my comment for later. Sorry.
Not a problem. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yep.
Patricia Shorn. I have 3 college degrees. I am homeless. I have been homeless since 2007. I am a person that should be very easily helped by the things that are, by the programs in place. I'm sorry. I'm coming down with something. It's not COVID, it's the flu.
Ms. Shorn, I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt you. Is this relevant to the Little Conestoga item?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's not.
Oh, no, you're so fine. We actually have a second public comment period, which will come just after this, which is the appropriate time for that comment. So at that time, we'd love to have you back up here.
Okay, so you would like me to sit down and we'll get to homelessness, or we're not covering it tonight?
So right now, we are taking comments on the MOU with Lancaster Township for the Little Conestoga Creek project. Then immediately after that, on the agenda, item 10 is public comment, where you are welcome to take your 3 minutes to make whatever comment you were going to make.
I am so embarrassed.
You are
Thank
totally fine. It's a little bit
Thank you.
arcane and not your fault. Thank you.
Don't worry about it.
It's not, yep. Any comments from the public on the Little Conestoga Creek project or the memorandum of understanding? Okay. Is that all you had, Councilor Soto?
Yes, it is, Council President.
Okay. With that, we will move to the second public comment section, open for comment about issues not on the agenda, duration of comments being limited to 3 minutes. I will have Ms. Shorn first, and then I would like to invite Deborah and Nelson Jr. To take 6 or 7 minutes between the two of them for comments that they have made me aware that they would like to make. So we'll begin with you, Ms. Shorn, please. And then, of course, we will go to the rest of the assembled public for any questions that you might have. No need to apologize.
3 minutes. So let me know when my time is up. Again, I'm Patricia Shorn. I have 3 college degrees. I'm homeless. I remain homeless, and I have no clue why. I am someone that should be easily helped by programs already in place. I am not helped by them, and I don't know why. The case managers seem clueless how to help anybody with a college degree. My college degrees were never checked on. I just recently had to hire an attorney to finish getting into medical school. That would be the Wyomissing campus over in Wyomissing. It's Drexel's new campus. They have a medical school PhD program. I had to go and get the attorney to ask Drexel, could I do it the Johns Hopkins way? Let's begin the PhD portion of that because I was too homeless to start medical school at the time my class was seating. Could I start with the PhD portion of it and work my way into medical school? That's how they allow it at Johns Hopkins. I had to get an attorney to do this because I was not, like I said, able to do this because of housing. I also worked at the vaccine center and didn't have any housing support there either. The only reason I got to work there was through TriStar. TriStar and I had worked together in Philadelphia. One of the other employers, that would be Penn Medicine, wondered what the heck was going on with this person who was bringing this cart and a sleeping bag in every day. And they saw what a good nurse I was. They talked to TriStar. TriStar told them we worked together in Philadelphia. And then I talked to Penn Medicine via statistics. And they said, wow, how comes we don't hire this person? And they did. So that worked out real well. But I still didn't have housing. I still don't have housing. I'm still out on the street. No caseworker will touch me. I'm really offended by what they did do. That was get me a psych consult. They could not find the Drexel School of Medicine. They missed it. It is 5 stories high, 17 tons of structural steel, 35 square feet of concrete, and they still could not find it. And so it's on Google now, but they drove by it several times and couldn't find it. And instead, they got me a psych consult for it. I'm very offended by the case managers here. Another problem with the case management, Not only can they not work at that end of developing people, they also can't work on holidays. They can't work on weekends. They disappear. And the holiday thing is really outrageous. This holiday coming up, keep an eye on them. They've heard about what I did last time for the last holiday. Last holiday, they got me thrown out of a hotel and sitting in my storage unit. It was Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day. It was a week and a half before, 7 days and 4 more days before they were back in their offices. And I thought that was outrageous. They said, well, we work very hard during the week, during the year. We felt entitled to it. I thought that is an outrage. That's an outrage. You can't reach them. Holidays, weekends, they need to have coverage. They are the only medical specialty I know of who doesn't. That's not true about Penn Medicines. I'm talking about Tenfold. Penn Medicine pulled one of their really hardworking case managers from hospice to help me one day, and she was really limited about what she could do. But Tenfold needs to cover that. Tenfold, TLC, they need to have coverage. I understand the 2 case managers that work with the police unit Monday through Friday, and they are very rude. If they don't want to go the distance for you, they'll give you a psych consult.
Ms. Shore, I'm so sorry. We are a
Yeah.
good bit over your time, but I'm
Sorry, okay.
deeply embedded in
Yeah,
this system.
right.
So please do not leave.
Sure.
I want to talk to you about this
Okay.
after the meeting, and I will talk to you directly.
All right,
I will
great.
come find you.
So I have another page of notes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan.
Sure.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. And in conflict with the community, there's some ways to alleviate that.
Let's get into it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Emma. Hey, good evening, y'all. If we could keep it to, I have just to date done a really poor job of managing time in these meetings, and so I'm trying to do a better one. So if we could keep it to 6-7 minutes between the two of you, I'd love that.
Yeah, I will keep it very
Take it
brief.
away, Mr. Polite.
But Nelson Polite Jr., 610 Euclid Avenue. We had an opportunity to sit down with the Lancaster Library staff and speak with them about a project that we're interested in specific inside the library, representing those who made a positive impact in the African-American community over the years. They were excited about it, we're excited about it, and the city is excited about it. And they were also happy that the city was very, very supportive of them. And they would certainly like your continued support, and we'd like your support in this project. So we have some notable men and women here. And this list is not an exhaustive list, but persons such as Dr. Copper, who birthed me, Carrie Foster, Louise Williams, Nelson M. Polite Sr., Abraham L. Polite Sr., Albert E. Wilson, Ruby M. Cook, and others. Then we also have those who were pre-Civil War, such as William Whipper, Robert Boston, and Stephen Smith, Hannah Bosley, Harriet Sweeney, and others. So we certainly would like your support in this project. We think it's important for our up-and-coming community, for us to be specifically represented in the new library. I'm representing the Polite Community Association and also the African American Historical Society.
Thank you.
Good evening
Good evening.
to our mayor and to the city council president and the city council and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Polite. I'm the daughter of the late Nelson M. Polite Sr. and the granddaughter of the late Abraham L. Polite Sr. I have come before you representing our family and the the Polite Community Association. And I am the president of the Polite Community Association and the representative of our association, which was started in 2016 before our father passed away, on his guidance and will and wisdom, to promote legacy of notable African Americans and to advocate and support the research findings and documentation done by Dr. Leroy T. Hopkins Jr. and his team members of the African American Historical Society of Lancaster. Even though Mr. Polite was physically challenged, his focus remained on giving back to his beloved community of Lancaster, of which he loved life. He lived life full and he died empty by giving his all. The core values we bring to the table today is to support the new public libraries project and include the many notable African Americans who developed a thriving community through their faith in the Lord God, business, art, faith of family, civic government, military service, music, education, and social justice through equity, fairness, and respect. Just want to leave with three things, just to touch upon again, that the one is African Americans take their rightful place in a section in the new downtown library, and that they have such a rich culture and contributions to Lancaster and the state of Pennsylvania. Number two, that we, nominate the naming of a section of the library in the honor of Mr. Nelson M. Polite Sr., born and raised in Lancaster and served as the city planner and was the first African American Lancastrian to become president of Lancaster City Council. Number three is that there is 100 years of public service between Abraham Polite Sr. and his son, Nelson Polite Sr. I thank you for your time and patience and love and this matter. And I want to leave a quote from Nelson Polite: "Praise God from whom all blessings flow." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Evening, Jessica Lopez, 437 East Marion Street. I want to start by thanking you for your lead program, and hopefully you're not considering this landlord's situation here, because at the end of the day, whether these people have children or those have children in the building, there will be children in this building at some point. And I know you guys have a great lead program, so thank you for that. But when you were speaking on the little Conestoga Creek project, I thought it was the Broad Street bike trail. Now, I frequent down there. It's one of my favorite places in the city, but there's no trash cans. The whole trail, you got to figure that's about a mile and some change. There is no trash cans. We get lots of kids down there, lots of trash. There's nowhere for homeless people to put their stuff. There's no trash cans at all down there. So while we have public works in the building, if that's something that we can work on, because literally it definitely needs trash cans down there. But also, I wanted to know if you guys are working on anything for that housing complex back there for when it floods. because it floods back there a lot. And I know somebody who lives in there now, and now I get a full view of it. And she's literally lived there for a few months and almost had to evacuate when the hurricane hit. And it's not the first time. So you got to figure these families take on so much damage. And yes, renter's insurance, but that takes time. They struggle badly down there when the flooding happens. So I'm wondering, like, does the city have something in plan that they're trying to do to keep that water flow in check? Because those are all low-income residents on that whole border strip. And it's like that, it's crazy how bad it gets. She literally had the river in her backyard. Like, I was recording live the whole time, and it's crazy how bad it gets.
Either Director Campbell or Mayor Srirachi.
I'll just say, I went down after Hurricane Ida because that's an area that is very, very subject to flooding, and saw for myself how close the water came, and even some of the houses on Almanac Avenue that are part of the Lancaster City Housing Authority. And this is something that we are wrestling with because we're looking to see whether or not there are federal funds for addressing flood and flood mitigation. We are also looking at how to appropriately use our capital dollars to address climate resiliency, because we also have a pump station that's down there as well as other infrastructure. So there's a lot of different needs that are along that stretch that you've identified, and we don't have a good solution at this point, and we are talking to federal contacts about funding that would be available. But at this point, we're lower on the list, Jessica, than other communities that are along the coastal areas. And so we have to figure this out, and you raise an important point.
I appreciate that, thank you. And lastly, as this lady was pointing out, our homeless issue, like it's beyond, and y'all know this, but at this point, none of our shelters are accepting people. None. 211's not referring anybody to anything. Tabor's not helping it. Tenfold isn't helping anybody with immediate solutions. So my question is, what are we doing to help people find housing, not even housing, but shelter at this point? I have a friend right now who just lost custody of her child because she couldn't secure housing. And 211 and Tenfold told her that maybe she should have looked into Colby Services. Colby Services is somebody who takes your children and puts them in families, homes with other families. Why is Tenfold telling people that if you're homeless to go through Colby Services so your children can be placed without you? Like there's a bunch of things that are going on right now that is very shady. Like, and I understand, I'm sorry, I'm going over my 3 minutes, but there's a bunch of things that is going on right now when it comes to our nonprofits actually not assisting the people in this city. And it's a big issue. If there's nobody accepting shelters and they're preparing for the extra give, why aren't they putting people in hotels anymore? Like there's certain things that something has to happen. This girl doesn't have anywhere to live and the city just took her kid. So it's like, how does she get back? Now she's 19, just lost her kid, probably losing her mind and doesn't have anywhere to stay. So what does that unfold for our city? A potential crime issue. Like these situations that they're placing people in while they're sitting back collecting our dollars and getting funding for this and getting funding for that, they're not coming up with immediate right now solutions, and people are literally sleeping on our streets now.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. I can talk to you and actually Ms. Shorn together after the meeting. So thank you for that. Are there any other public comments? Going once, going twice? Okay, that then brings us to the report of the mayor. Mayor Srirachi.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Harris to assist in loading a presentation. There we go. As promised, I wanted to share a report of the community engagement that the city of Lancaster has conducted over the last 2 months to hear from our community about how to allocate the $39.5 million in American Rescue Plan funds we received. And this is just a start. and in terms of the engagement that will be ongoing throughout this process, but I just wanted to give you all a summary of that. Next slide, Bernie. So this is what the digital engagement platform looked like, Engage Lancaster. And on the platform, residents can give direct feedback on city projects, all kinds of different projects, from the comprehensive plan to the South Duke Street and so on. Specific to the American Rescue Plan, we asked participants to vote on their top 5 priorities, and there were 22 different options. People could comment also on what they thought was missing or elaborate on any of the priorities. These 22 options represented the broadest category of ARPA-approved spending, economic recovery from COVID-19, recognizing that not all of these options are in the wheelhouse of city government. But we wanted to be open to what residents had to say and not narrow the lane prematurely. And I just want to also mention that 2 other important ARPA-approved areas have to do with revenue replacement and infrastructure. These were left off the list of priorities since the administration, deems these essential. So we'll be talking about revenue replacement as a topic of conversation later this month when we introduce the budget to you in a couple of weeks. And then we'll also be talking more about infrastructure in 2022. And it was especially important to relate that and the decisions that we make related to ARPA to the recently passed and much, much welcomed Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act legislation that was passed on Friday. We finally had Infrastructure Week. So at first glance, there are several opportunities in that infrastructure package for the city of Lancaster, and we're looking forward to diving into that. Next slide. So for over a month and a half, our engagement team conducted outreach to hear from the community, and so this is what it looks like by the numbers. We had about 600 participants, 356 online, and 243 in person. There were 136 comments submitted. Outreach was done both online and directly in person at 6 different events. And we're still continuing to work at best ways to reach everyone. We know that not everyone feels great about giving online feedback, which makes our in-person engagement really critical. Next slide. So for the digital outreach, you can see here a breakdown. On the Engage platform, we heard heavily from the Northwest Quadrant, and so users on Engage Lancaster can tell us where they live when they create their profile. And even those outside the city can submit input. We do target our communications to city residents, but I have to say that invariably there are folks who want to weigh in because they have a stake in the city in some way or another. We know that there's work to do to increase engagement from all areas of the city. And on the next slide, you'll see what we've done related to in-person outreach. So we had in-person events. Next slide, Bernie. At McCaskey football game, we had Saca Senior Center, Crystal Park, Penn Square, and then also at Brightside Opportunities Fall Fest. We focused really on trying to reach southwest, southeast, and northeast quadrants to balance out the feedback. And we really tried to focus on younger and older folks, families with younger children, and our Spanish-speaking neighbors. We had both English and Spanish interpretation available, activity boards, and so on. And we also work to educate and collect input from our own staff on how to best use the ARPA funds as well, because we know that their expertise and dedications is also going to make these investments successful. Next slide. So here we get our first look at the top 5 priorities. Affordable housing, not a shocker, is number 1. Behavioral health, number 2. Homelessness supports, number 3. Addressing educational disparities, number 4. And critical home repair, number 5. And we know that in in comparing the digital to online engagement, the first 5 were largely the same, which I think is reassuring in terms of the outreach and the consistency of the feedback. Next slide. As I mentioned before, we understand that some of the priorities and needs that our city has are outside of the wheelhouse of the city of Lancaster. For example, the county of Lancaster manages all of the behavioral health and drug prevention programs, and the school district is working to address educational disparities, and a wide variety of nonprofits deliver various services that are also on this list. So the city is really committed to using this information to advocate on behalf of our residents. Half of the top 10 priorities call on other partners to invest their time and money in addressing these key issues. And we know that 2 other entities in particular are integral to the success, which are the County of Lancaster, which received $106 million of ARPA funds, and the School District of Lancaster, which received $42 million. So collectively, we need to use these critical funds to holistically improve our community. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you, next slide, Bernie, is some of the common themes from the comments that were submitted under other. And these were largely what folks thought were missing, which had a lot to do with stormwater, sewer, and green infrastructure, improved public transit, investment in parks and recreation and green spaces, youth community programs, and the importance of making long-term investments and thinking about how to really use these dollars, not for one-time programmatic expenses, but things that are going to have a longer lasting effect, and to really evaluate the expenditures that council will ultimately make through a lens of long-term community benefit. And I think that on the next slide, you can see just a very simple word cloud of some of the issues and words that came up in the feedback. And next slide, just wanted to share with you some of the next steps. Obviously, we're advancing the housing investments that council committed to at last month. We are also digesting legal and regulatory compliance and reporting requirements. There are a number of policies and procedures that we need to implement, and processes for compliance monitoring for all the subrecipients, and much, much more. We had a briefing call yesterday with outside counsel to help us walk through some of these compliance issues, which I will tell you are a lot more than I bargained for. And I'll be talking with council more about some of the things that we need to take into consideration as we continue to allocate these funds. Also be working with council to determine additional priorities, as well as the required performance indicators and timeline for the rolling out of these funds, and continued community engagement. This was a first pass at community engagement, and we're looking forward to continuing conversation about other priorities that are elevated through this process, and the way in which we want to approach those priorities over time. I just want to remind everybody that, next slide, Bernie, that our team is really excited about this opportunity, and it has generated an incredibly rich conversation about what we want to see in our community alongside of our comprehensive plan. And finally, just to let everybody know again, that these funds need to be obligated by 12/31/24, and they need to be expended by 12/31/26. So we have a long time horizon, and as I said when we started this process, it's really challenging to balance the immediacy of needs, even needs that are before council tonight, with some of the bureaucratic hurdles that we need to clear, as well as a process for not creating space for new opportunities to emerge over the time horizon that we have ahead of us. That's my report tonight. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening, so, sorry. So we go then to council comments. Councilors.
Council President, just a note from the Finance Committee, as an advance reminder, that the budget hearings for 2022 will be held on Saturday, December 11th in this room, and more to come on that.
If you've never been to the city budget hearing, it is like a 5 to 6 hour rip-roaring good time. We've got electronic music, we've got jungle juice, there's a snack bar. There's actually none of those things, but you will get to watch Patrick Hopkins talk for 5 hours, really earn his salary. So if that sounds like a good time to you, please come on out. No, seriously, really, this is when you will get to see each department of the city of Lancaster break down what their plans are for your tax and fee dollars over the next calendar year. And it's really rare that we have both the time and space to go through the upwards of $110 million in the city budget line by line by line. So we invite you, and thank you, Councilor Bakay, for your leadership on budget proceedings this year. Other council comments? Hearing none, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night, everyone. Ms. Lopez and Ms. Shorn, if you would meet me at the commission table, I'd appreciate it. That's the wooden table.